Yeah. Yeah. That's good right there. If you can balance it. Yeah. Okay.
There you go. That'll work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Little trees. This podcast
Uh,
is sponsored by Little
Yeah, I was
Trees.
gonna
yeah.
say.
Well, I mean, I'm ready to just go. Just start
Sure.
talking. Okay. So, what we've decided is to just, might as well just go over the House of the Dragon as kind of a preliminary thoughts on it, what you might think could go right, could go wrong. I do want to, obviously, at some point, once the episodes start coming out, then we should definitely do those recaps of recaps and reviews, because those would be easy. I think like 30 minutes to an hour tops.
Yeah, we might have a lot to talk about
Yeah.
sometimes too.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, so what are your like initial thoughts? Just seeing like the trailer, what is your initial thought? It's you know, you don't want to lean too heavily into, oh, this is going to be amazing, and then get disappointed. But you know, what comes to your head first off?
I think. I mean, trailer's not. I don't know. The trailer seemed pretty standard to me. I mean, I like a lot of the casting and stuff.
Yeah.
Matt Smith seems like a kind of surprisingly solid choice, if I had to guess,
Yeah.
just because of his acting chops.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have pictured him for like a Daemon Targaryen, but
Yeah.
I think it will probably work out really well.
So,
And then a lot of the other actors, if I've seen them before, they seem like good choices.
mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, Matt Smith is really good at that kind of like asshole noble
Yep.
type role. I mean, that's basically what he was in The Crown.
Mm-hmm.
Was Philip, I think.
Okay.
He was Prince Philip, I think. Yeah. And I was kind of just a roguish.
Yeah.
Very good as a Targaryen, I think. Just something, but not something that you would have like anticipated or thought of,
Yeah.
like in a void.
What's kind of funny is because I've only ever seen him in Doctor Who, actually. That's the only thing I've watched. But I kind of like, once I saw that he was there, I kind of was like, okay, that can make sense. Just from random pieces of Doctor Who that I've seen that show where he can kind of go to a darker place, which is hilarious because it's from Doctor Who, where he's, you know, just a standard good guy. But then he, you know, I know he has good range. And just seeing him with that wig, he looks like a Targaryen. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know many of the other actors. Like, I'm trying to think if I even can...
Naomi Watts still in it?
Let me check.
No, was she in the other spin-off
Maybe
show?
she
I
was in
think?
the other one.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that many of the other actors in it that I can
Look it up.
think of.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of them.
It's obviously one of the best like premises for a spin-off show is doing the Dance of the Dragons, because you get to have everything that you want pretty much out of a Song of Ice and Fire show.
Yeah.
You get plenty of magic, plenty of dragons, high fantasy elements, and then but really the show is completely centered around conniving politics.
Yep.
You just get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, how do you think... Yeah, I guess, because this is also going to be... I mean, there's obviously other high houses and lords and stuff in this, but for the most part, it is kind of contained to within the family of the Targaryens. So it'll be kind of
Yeah.
an interesting thing too, because even from some of the interviews I've seen from the cast, it's a lot more kind of close knit, and more like you don't get the as big of a wide range, at least in the first season, of like spreading out to the
Yeah.
entirety of Westeros and having like 400 different things. It seems like it'll be a little bit more simple at the beginning, and then start branching out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
and it also sounds like the other major families are ones that we haven't really seen anything of from Game
Yeah.
of Thrones.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
Velaryon and Hightower.
Hightower.
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah, just totally absent in Game of Thrones.
right. Yeah, looking at the cast. Like, there's recognizable faces. Like, I know Paddy Considine or whatever. I've seen him. I know I've seen Graham McTavish. Yeah, some of these
He was in
characters.
The Hobbit,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
or maybe was it The Hobbit?
Yeah, he was in The Hobbit. He was Dwalin.
Okay, yeah.
He was one of the dwarves.
Yeah, okay. That's right.
And then who is it that plays the king?
That's
King Viserys.
Paddy Considine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
okay.
I know I've seen him places. I just can't think of anything specifically. But
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's been in like randomly a Coldplay music video.
Hmm.
But
what am I thinking of him from then?
I don't recognize him from anything. There's nothing in here that The World's End, maybe.
World's End. Okay.
Yeah, he might be one of the guys in
Peaky
that.
Blinders.
Let's see.
No, Hot
trying to
Fuzz.
think
Born Ultimatum. Yeah, I've seen him. That must be where I've seen him, is just from those, because a lot of these other ones I don't recognize.
Okay, yeah. He was in. He was in Hot Fuzz, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, he was.
that's
Hot
what I
Fuzz.
recognize.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hot Fuzz and World's End. He's in both
Mhm.
of those. So.
And I actually remember the Coldplay music video that he was in as well.
Really?
It's, God put a smile on your face, I think.
I don't know any Coldplay music videos.
Yeah.
When you said that, I was like, remember a specific, like a somewhat known actor being in a Coldplay music video. That's
Mhm.
probably the line. But
Yeah.
but he's like a comedy actor. So that's
Yeah, so that should be interesting.
interesting.
Just from what I've seen, he obviously seems like he's, experienced in whatever. I wonder, so what do you guys think about because they're going to be doing like time jumps as well.
Right.
Because you have the younger actresses for Rhaenyra. Is that the main character or main? Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
Rhaenyra, and then the Hightower girl. Can't remember her name. Allison, yeah. So they're going to be doing time jumps. Kind of interested in how they're going to structure that. If they're just going like the first half is them in the younger, or if they're going to be doing like flashbacks. Like,
It's interesting because like
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, the show, they early on though they broke this rule a little bit later on. Like they early on were insistent upon never doing flashbacks.
yeah.
They didn't do any until the premiere of episode 1 of season 5. That was the first time you ever saw an actual flashback.
Was that with
aside from
the Night King creation, or?
that was with the that was just Cersei
It's
and
Cersei.
her, yeah, when they're Cersei and someone with her friend or something, and they go visit the mad witch lady who curses
Yeah.
her.
Oh, okay.
That was the first like ever flashback.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. It's interesting because I don't know if they'll do flashbacks or if they'll just do a linear
Yeah.
progression of events. Obviously, this is different writers,
Mhm.
stuff like that. What Game of Thrones would do instead was long monologues
Yeah.
that achieved a similar thing. But I don't know. I think there are aspects of Game of Thrones that it also was a time thing too. But
Yeah.
I think it could have been served with flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like I think there are flashbacks that could have really worked early on. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of also depends on how they do it, because I would assume that they would only really have, either way, that they would probably only have the younger actresses and stuff in the first season, and then after that, you're just in the present.
right.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll just be like, I mean, maybe it
Might
could
just be
be
linear, yeah.
or just a short, maybe they're not in it for actually that long. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah. Who knows? It could just be like
Yeah,
3 episodes of setup, and then
yeah. I
you're in
wonder
the new. Yeah.
because I think they have both uh, time periods in the trailer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might be like just the first few episodes,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
first
They
three or
even
something.
have the king before Viserys in it, so
So I imagine, yeah. Then actually,
you might
I would
even have
imagine
Viserys as a
maybe,
young man.
maybe the first couple episodes will set up just
Mm-hmm.
the family dynamics, what led them to be who they are, and then from there is when it will get into the main
Yeah.
storyline, because their dynamics obviously would have started as children
Yep.
and younger and stuff like that, and maybe some setup stuff, or maybe even just the first episode. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I feel like. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much time it really would take for them, because
Yeah.
as far as I'm not super familiar with the actual core story, except for from the lore videos that I've seen on YouTube. But like when they're younger, the only real big thing that happens as far as the history of it is that she's declared his heir, right? Rhaenyra is declared Viserys' heir at a young age. Everyone comes and swears allegiance, and then like years later is when the king finally dies, and then all of the real conflict starts. But there's also a lot of stuff that happened
Yeah.
before that with
He
Daemon Targaryen.
marries.
So
Yeah.
because Daemon's off, he gets like banished at one point or exiled, and he goes off and he fights in a bunch of wars like
Yeah.
in the disputed area, and then comes back. So maybe there is like enough. Maybe if they do have more episodes of them in the earlier
Right.
time period, maybe it's exploring some of that. And then yeah, who knows? Because I guess there is still, as far as with Daemon goes, there's still a decent amount of stuff that happens before the main conflict kicks off. Yeah.
That's the thing with. I mean, yeah, that's the thing with like these shows that are, or like these stories that are like family, these like long family dynamics that go back a long time, is it's kind of a. So where do you start?
Yeah.
'Cause it's like real history. It's
Just
it's-
always moving.
There's
Yeah.
always moving,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I mean, they could do something like, like Breaking Bad would do, or Better Call Saul, or something where each like episode has a cold open that's like 5 minutes from the past or something like that.
Mhm.
But that's usually leading towards something. So
Right. Yeah.
leading towards a reveal, which there wouldn't be a reveal because you already know.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
Yeah, it'll be interesting just to see how they decided to structure it in general, because there's a lot of ways you could go with that, like whether it is through flashbacks or just straight up linear. I think I would be fine with either or. Either way could work.
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the understanding that I have from watching a video by a guy who, like a non-spoiler video, a guy who was at the premiere,
Hmm.
is that the first episode is just, it's all in their younger days,
Okay.
younger years,
Okay. Yeah.
and it just like pretty quickly establishes everything and then
Mhm.
gets things going. Like establishes all the characters pretty quickly because there just aren't as many characters as
Right.
Game of Thrones.
True.
And yeah, and he's like a huge book guy. He's not like a Game of Thrones YouTuber. He's like a Song of Ice and Fire YouTuber, and he was very, very pleased with
Okay.
premiere episode.
Okay.
It said it felt more like A Song of Ice and Fire than Game of Thrones did.
Mm-hmm.
Felt more like in a similar way to, season 1 and 2 and stuff. Just felt very medieval, very like it's just like fully in the world. It's not like the later seasons. You just felt like this is a TV show. I'm watching specific characters that are set up to be whereas in the early seasons it's like we're just jumping into a world and there's some stuff going on and we get to join along for the ride. So he felt like it was much more like immersed in the real world of Westeros.
Well, one thing that the early seasons have got was like stayed massively away from, whether they needed to or not, was like they tried to make everything as lean as possible. So you never really got into like all these different families and the heraldry and like all that kind of stuff. You never got into it in the show.
Yeah.
And they always kind of glossed over it besides the main 4 families: Starks, Baratheons, Targaryens, and still Targaryens. They didn't get into much at all with them.
Yeah.
Like with their past and stuff. Bad King, they barely even actually really talk about it except for the first season.
Mm-hmm.
So if this one spends more time focused on that aspect of things, then I can see how it could be even more like Song of Ice and Fire than even the first season was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I know even George R. R. Martin was saying that like he's watched the kind of preliminary stuff before all the VFX and stuff have been added, and he seemed really impressed with it. Which of course, it's his story or whatever. He's probably not going to just shit all over it for no reason or whatever. But it's still like I feel like I feel like it'll be solid at least. And it doesn't. It also, in the first season, it doesn't need to completely blow me away for it to be a good watch.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I hope they don't like have this idea like they need to almost follow like a Game of Thrones formula of like we got to kill off a major character at the end of season 1 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, maybe the story would actually would make sense, but but I hope they're not like thinking we need a Ned Stark moment, or something like that. Just tell the story. It doesn't have to have like some completely mind blowing moment. Just tell a solid type.
And I mean, if you just look at the underlying story they have there's plenty of great moments already. And big ones. So it's like, I think if they just follow, obviously you can't follow everything perfectly, but if they follow the blueprint there, it's already going to feel like it has real stakes. Because, I mean, it's just like, as far as the end result, it's basically just a complete massacre of the family, so.
Well, we'll see what, too, because, like, one thing that was different about Game of Thrones than pretty much any show that ever existed on HBO was that the higher-ups in HBO and stuff did start getting involved and calling the shots on some things.
Mm-hmm.
They would say things like, we need more Arya because she scores higher on these rating systems we use and stuff like that. So regardless of the writer's intentions, depends on how hands-on studio is, because I could definitely see them being like, but no, there needs to be a Ned Stark moment.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
It's pretty amazing how a show as wildly successful as Game of Thrones could still have studio people going in and be like, no, you need more of this character. Like,
I mean, I think they were more involved as it went on. I don't know how much, but
which is kind of mind-blowing.
I know George R. R. Martin was, briefly talked about it and mentioned it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They would be like, we need, some rating system, Q rating or something like that. Certain characters scored higher on things, so they had to.
I
But
wonder.
that wasn't the case with shows like Sopranos or
Mhm.
really any HBO shows. That was always a known thing with HBO, is that they were very hands off.
Yeah.
And sometimes that would
Yeah.
cause issues, and
I mean,
most of the time it was turned out good. So,
yeah. Are there any are there any examples that you can think of where more studio executives started getting hands on and it actually worked out better in the end? Like, how does?
I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm
I
sure
don't
there
know.
are, like, I'm sure there are uses for
mm,
kind of top-down management in certain
Oh, yeah.
scenarios, but it's like when you've
Well, I
already
mean-
struck gold, it's like don't
Yeah.
touch it, let it just keep going.
like it didn't go all the way up to Disney with the first 4 phases of Marvel, but it did go up to a higher up who oversaw Kevin Feige, or whatever his
Mhm.
name is, who oversaw everything.
Yeah,
And that worked out, I think, better in a lot of ways.
Yeah, okay.
They did make the movies more samey,
yeah,
but for what they were trying to do,
it was successful.
and it seems like with Phase 4 that maybe they've reeled back a bit, and I don't know if it's been good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been. I haven't been very impressed with a lot of Phase 4,
Yeah,
so it seems like
Yeah,
they've changed their approach to me. I don't know.
yeah,
So I think they're obviously, at least for stuff like that, there certainly is a place for someone who knows what they're doing,
yeah,
but also knows what's necessary for creatives and stuff like that, and can
yeah,
properly balance that. Because I mean, you do need to. 99% of writers are incredibly up their own ass,
yeah,
so it's okay to occasionally have someone that's like, hey,
yeah.
like, yeah,
And yeah, it also comes down to like having some sort of a structure. Having a structure doesn't actually reduce freedom. In some ways, it makes it better. Like it's like having a routine or something like that can help you actually be more productive, even though you're restricting yourself more. Because yeah, with a lot of creatives, especially if you end up getting like perfectionists and people who would just rework the same thing over and over again, you can end
Right.
up where budgets just go way overboard, and then other parts of it start being falling apart. But yeah, it's probably a very case by case, and also like with Marvel movies, yeah, they knew exactly what they wanted out of it,
right,
which probably helps a ton. Whereas with a show where you're like trying to push boundaries or do something, something new or whatever, it's probably not a great thing to have a ton of oversight and 500 cooks in the kitchen,
Yeah,
but-
okay. That's never with
Yeah.
any writing. It's TV shows have more writers, but with most creative things, there's definitely a very low limit on how many people should be calling the shots
Yeah.
and contributing,
yeah,
because it ends up becoming cooks in the kitchen thing, and
Mhm.
it just gets overcooked, and
yeah, because it comes down to like shared vision, and it's obviously if it's one person writing something, they share their vision with themselves. There's 2 people writing, then you can have a decent chance of having a shared vision, whatever. Once you start getting to more and more, then you have people with completely different ideas of what the show is than each other, and they're just fighting each other in the end.
I mean, we've all seen movies and TV shows and stuff like that where feels like it was made by 2 different people.
Yep.
And obviously, in a lot of cases, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, just the original Justice League was a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Of like scenes literally being like, no, these were written by 2
Yeah.
separate people, and they do not link,
Yep.
and they're different movies entirely. Like,
Right.
Who are
Yeah.
we need to talk about Justice League sometime,
yeah?
because
I'll have
that
to
is
rewatch
such a
it, but-
great case cut.
You need
Case
to watch
study.
the new version too. If we're gonna
Okay.
do that, we need to watch both of them.
Yeah.
Like the comparison is the 2 extremes that I think every filmmaker should avoid.
Yep.
Like one is like ultimate, just like studio controlled. We need to have like this like the Marvelization of it and stuff, and it just like
Yeah.
sucks the soul out of it. And then you get like the visionary creator gone completely rogue with absolutely no restraint, and
Yeah.
it's just like a mess that it is like, okay, I see something here, but
Yeah,
this is
it's
just
better.
Yeah.
it's just this jumbled mess of something. It's like,
Yeah.
maybe you needed a little bit of restraint.
Well, you're still in the new version. There's still characters and plot elements being introduced by I think like hour 3 probably,
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it just doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
It
is
is better. It's clearly like what at least a person's vision.
Yeah.
When you watch the new one, like you're like, okay, yeah, I can see this.
Right.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think, Zack Snyder is like one of those guys who just can't filter any of his ideas. He just has ideas and he just like throws everything at the screen, and it's like, oh, this movie didn't need to be 4 hours long.
Yeah.
There's so much filler.
Yeah. So this is a little bit off, or I guess kind of back, but back on track. But so the budget. This is interesting. So season 1 Game of Thrones, it says that it began at about $6 million an episode.
Yeah,
so that's season 1. So this one now has $20 million an episode. House of the Dragon does, which I think is even comparable to late seasons of Game of Thrones.
That's higher than I would say like even some of season 7's episodes were.
Yeah, because for comparison, Game of Thrones cost HBO around $100 million per season, which would be $10 million an episode or something. So it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously they have way more VFX shots that are coming into play with tons of dragons.
I mean, the dragons in this show, you can't pull a dire wolves or early season dragons.
Yeah.
Where you're just covertly hiding them.
Right. They have to be
possible.
out in the open. Yeah.
And it was bad enough with the dire wolves, but was survivable. But with this, there needs to be dragons on screen often.
Yeah. And they're interacting with a lot of stuff, which
so
changes things.
Yeah, I mean, like one thing that guy said is that reviewer said is that there will be it's unlike Game of Thrones in that there will be a scene where a character will just fly in on a dragon, get off, and they'll go talk to someone.
Yeah,
and the dragon is not a big deal at all. It's just a vehicle.
And
which is exactly what I wanted.
Huge dragon.
Yeah, from the show was that with the dragons.
And those dragons have to be unique too, because you have to remember like who Caraxes is versus Vhagar or whatever I can't remember all the names, but which that'll be sweet because I think is it Caraxes or Vhagar or something that's like the biggest one. It's not quite Balerion, the Black Dread, but like just a gigantic ancient one that Daemon or Aemon, I think flies. Yeah.
One of them is one of the 3. One of
I don't think it was one of the 3. Well, maybe.
The dragons live a long
time.
One
of Aegon's sisters.
Dragons. Oh, maybe one of the sisters' dragons. Yeah, because Balerion died of old age.
Yeah,
or actually, I don't know. Actually, maybe it was just.
I think they live forever. Basically.
Okay. Caraxes.
I think it's Vhagar. Maybe
Vhagar or Vhagar. Oh, Vhagar.
Well, that'll be one like really interesting part of it too. Is that we never got to see much actual like a little bit with Daenerys in the earlier seasons, and then not really any at all in the later seasons of like negotiating around dragons.
Yeah.
And like the politics involved and stuff, because Daenerys' solution for everything was just burn it to the ground, and it worked for 95% of her. So, and 95% of her problems. And then when it came to actual Westeros, it was more like this is like a nuclear weapon.
Right.
Whereas this, they'll still be like nuclear weapons, but it's more like the Cold War type thing.
Yeah.
And or how it currently is in the world of like we have to negotiate around these weapons that can destroy
Yeah.
most of our armies, and we
Yeah.
need ways to prevent them, and which we have mutually assured destruction, basically.
Right. So Blair, you were right. Yeah, Vagar has grown nearly as big as Balerion had been during Aegon's
That'll be
conquest.
sweet.
So Vagar's just going to be gigantic.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah. And
Vagar
Caraxes is big. Yeah.
Vagar died during this.
I believe so.
think
So,
Isn't it all of them that die?
Almost.
I think they all died. Yeah, because that was basically that was like the dragons that never really came back much after this.
No.
I don't think.
Yeah, I think there might have been some
There's
dragons
some
left.
little
I know there
ones.
were dragon riders that even escaped, like some of the bastard dragon riders that
Oh right.
escaped. I think, like, yeah, one of them flew overseas or something like that. But yeah, but they were basically, even if they had dragons, they never came back from the loss.
Yeah, and then I wonder if they're gonna get into the whole like Maester conspiracy stuff, like, which is just a theory, I think, at this point. But wonder if they would lean into that kind of thing, like the Maesters kind of plotting
Right.
the Targaryens.
Yeah.
Well,
War.
if you have the high towers as an actual
Yeah.
house, then you can have Old Town
Yep.
a
Yeah.
lot more present, and that'd be cool too because they didn't get to use Old Town much.
Right.
And Old Town in the books and obviously stuff, it's a huge focal point of a lot of stuff. We
Yeah,
just haven't
definitely.
seen the fruits of it really.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's in a very important city. I mean, like that Old Town and White Arbor are like some of the only cities that are close to King's Landing size.
Yeah.
But you just don't. Lannisport, like all the ports, you don't see much of in the show, but they're all like way larger than Winterfell or
Right.
any of those things, which obviously makes sense.
Yeah, and you're gonna because you're also gonna have the Valerians, the House Valerian. What did they have again? It was like an island port or something. They're gonna have
Yeah.
a sweet like seafaring city.
Yeah, it starts with a C, I think. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
There,
It's near Dragonstone, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We have the island of Driftmark.
yeah, I think that is
Driftmark,
it.
that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
Didn't try and see. Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
like looking at Vagar, yeah, I mean he dies at the end in the battle above the God's Eye, like all the others.
Right.
I mean I don't know if that'll be the last season or what, but
Right.
that'll be insane because you'll have 4 dragons
Just so
dying
many
in one
dying.
battle.
Yep. Yeah, they'll be like, man, yeah, because there's dragons dying all the time before then too. Like a lot of them are smaller, younger ones, but and you
I
do
think
have
there's,
some
like,
betrayals, and there's a lot of stuff that happens that
Yeah.
you could really build out.
Mm.
And because I mean, I don't know how much it goes into detail in the actual lore books, but I just know from watching the videos that there's just so much that is happening, like flip-flopping houses, and there's ton of potential for good TV for sure.
That's one thing
Yeah.
we also never got was like different like I don't know, different people like kind of the ones in charge in a sense. Because in the show, it was in Game of Thrones, it really was as far as King's Landing went, it was just Lannisters really the whole time.
Yeah.
Like there was new people on the throne, but it was just mainly Joffrey, Tommen, and then Cersei.
Yeah.
And it would have been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it would have been interesting if you had seen more how other people actually would rule the realm and stuff.
Yeah. The other amazing thing is that we get to actually see the blood and cheese story, which is just horrific. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that can happen, or that should be happening in the show. I really do hope that they stick to a lot of at least the major plot points. just because I just want to see. There's so many awesome things that happen
I think,
that I just want to see happen.
yeah, I feel like the creators were basically saying, like, or creator, I guess, was saying that obviously it's a history book, so it's just plot points.
Yeah,
And he was basically saying, like, yeah, like everything that we can possibly fit in, we're gonna fit in. Like,
yeah,
he has the same mindset of just, I want to see this moment, I want to see that moment, like,
yeah.
you know,
And
and
since
it's
it is kind of history, you can fill in a bunch of details. You could even create your own. You could have whole characters that are not technically in history, but they might make some sort of a mark. Like you can have a lot of freedom there too.
yeah.
So I have a question. Would you guys rather that this have been made or the Blackfire Rebellions?
I mean, on like a personal level, probably Blackfire stuff. But since the show Game of Thrones didn't touch on the Blackfires
That's true.
ever, I
Yeah.
would know that it wouldn't be a sensible choice
Right,
compared
yeah.
to House of Dragons.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the
Actually, I mean,
Blackfire-
if Blood Moon had the possibility to lead anywhere, I would have taken that over anything else.
Yeah.
But since we know the White Walkers don't lead anywhere, it was kind of like, what are you going to do with this
Right.
show?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, the Blackfire
the-
stuff, there's plenty. I feel like with the Blackfire, it's an amazing story. And there's some awesome characters like Bloodraven, whatever his name,
Right.
Brendan Rivers. But then the problem is that also Bloodraven in the show doesn't really lead anywhere as well.
Right.
So it's I think this probably Dance of Dragon or House of the Dragon, the show is probably the best logical one then. Yeah, that makes sense.
Why didn't they just call the show
Dance of Dragons. Yeah.
Dance with Dragons?
Yeah.
Or Dance of Dragons.
Mhm.
I guess they were just worried it would. House of Dragon doesn't make it any clearer either.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's
Right.
like either way we know it's either way we know it's the Targaryens.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they could have called it Fire and Blood, but that would have been
yeah, Fire and
Bit
Blood
more
would have been
vague.
sweet. But yeah, that would
Yeah.
have been maybe too vague. But
you got to have dragon in the name.
Yep.
yeah,
So-
yeah. For those dastardly, yeah. Well, hopefully they're not thinking like we just were, and just like how D&D thought with
Yeah.
this show, where people are too dumb to understand the
Yeah.
things we're writing.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
in this world of people
Um,
keeping track of 1,000 different characters in Marvel movies, it's just too
Yeah.
hard to.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
Like, I remember back in, like, season 4 was coming out. There was tons of people who were like, yeah, I don't remember half the characters' names, but I love it. Like,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. You recognize the characters and you
Mhm.
can piece things
Yeah.
together just fine.
Yep.
I mean, you had huge fans of the show who just called Daenerys Dragon Lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, that was all they needed to know.
Right.
They didn't know her name. They didn't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I always bring up like The Wire. I didn't know 95% of the characters' names in The Wire the first time through.
Yep.
Didn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's still plenty of characters that I can remember their face but don't know their name.
Mhm.
But I know their personality, which
Yeah.
that's really all you need.
Who was the bald detective, in the same department as McNulty?
I think I know the guy. I think I know the guy you're talking about.
There's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
3
yeah.
that I am thinking of that
He's like
I
a
don't know any of
fatter,
their names.
he
Yeah, he's
kinda
kind of
just-
he's bigger. Yeah.
He's like a generally cool guy,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
he just shows up a lot. I never know his name,
Yeah.
I
Never.
couldn't tell you his name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I know his character.
Yep.
Mhm. Know how he acts, and
Yeah.
yeah. Same with a lot of the gangsters.
Yeah.
Didn't know. I knew you knew like Avon and stuff because the cop characters said their names so much.
Right. Yeah.
Stringer and Omar and stuff.
Yeah.
Omar's coming and all that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
still, it took me a long time to like figure out who a lot of like just the enforcers' names were.
Right. Yeah,
You
because there's tons of those minor characters that come back here and there.
Mhm.
You just don't see them that often. Yeah, they're not. They might be named on camera like twice. But,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
you don't
definitely
need to
several.
always cater to lowest common denominator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
this.
it's
I
a
think.
visual medium.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
and I think probably trusting the audience is probably like.
Mhm.
Obviously, you can go too far and have things be way too complicated, and
Right.
But
Yeah,
probably
of course.
a good. It's a good thing to just not. Just if you ever have to dumb things down, then you're probably not going in the right direction.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really. Yeah.
And like if you're gonna do what Game of Thrones did a lot, where they would like combine elements, then
Mhm.
you have to have a plan for later on when those elements are completely separate in the book.
Yeah.
Right.
And now what do? Do you just create a new element to, kind of tell both stories or something? Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna cut out a major character, what do you do with them later on? You have to have
Yeah.
a plan for all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a thing of thinking too short term as well. You don't wanna, a lot of shows and stuff like that have an issue, especially like, with like the not the current Marvel shows. Those have an opposite problem. They're too fast paced. But the older Marvel shows where you have a conflict but you just drag it out.
Yep.
And it's just like the same. Nothing moves for like 8 episodes in the middle because
Right.
you're just like everyone stagnates for like 8 episodes straight, and then you have the finale, the climax. So there's a problem with holding things back too much. We're like, oh, we're gonna get 8 seasons, so
Yeah.
there's that problem. But then there's a problem with thinking too short term, like, well, if this character dies now, this will make an interesting episode, but
Yeah.
not thinking
Yeah.
like what
Yeah.
happens in the future. We could use that character again, like
Right.
that one character, Locke, whatever his name was, who was a
Right.
replacement for several characters. The Bolton guy who cuts off Jamie's arm. There's a lot they could have used him for in the future, but
Yep.
they just had Hodor like kill him.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Which I thought
They
was cool
did.
and worked, but like
They
could have
did
been
at
used
least-
for a lot more.
Yeah. He basically got used to cut off Jamie's hand and then be like a traitor to John.
Mhm.
Someone who like kind of gets in
Yeah.
John's good graces and then betrays him,
Yeah,
Yep.
and then
He was-
immediately gets killed.
yeah. I mean, I still remember I remember the scene where he cuts off Jamie's arm just like very vividly.
Oh yeah.
The way he says things and stuff like that. Like he was great. He was a great character. But there's a fair amount of characters like that where they just kill him off early.
hmm
Barristan Selmy.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. They just needed some. Yeah. Just kind
They
of
needed a
needed
death.
Yeah, they needed a death, something to
Right.
keep it going. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't use those deaths to like push characters forward. Like they
Right.
could have really played into Barristan's death being a factor in Daenerys's descent into madness. She kind of loses her last
Right.
one of her last people who will just tell her the truth.
hmm
But they didn't, because pretty much everyone else was giving her
Right.
moral advice.
Right.
Too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. You didn't have that. Barristan had no point to exist with Tyrion
Right.
around. It's basically probably what
even-
it came down to.
Yeah.
like even Dario was like a somewhat moral guy,
Mhm.
which should never have been the case. He should have been just a
Yeah.
completely like self-serving dude who
Mhm.
who
Well,
she was
yeah.
wrong to fall in love with, basically. But
Yep.
Well, I mean, like that's like, yeah. If we go back to House of Dragon, that's one thing too, is that most of these Targaryens should be pretty bastardish in a sense.
Yeah. Which I think,
Not a whole
from
lot
what
of
we've
good
seen,
Targaryens.
yeah, from interviews I've seen with the cast, it seems like that's the case, which is good. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Because there really wasn't a good guy and bad
Yeah.
guy in this part, or in this story. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like it'd be like looking at any of the dynasty wars, like preceding the Tudors,
Yeah.
preceding Henry VIII and stuff like that, and following Henry VIII.
Mm-hmm.
There was like
Right.
Bloody Mary, like there was no one. Everyone was just horrible, basically.
yeah,
There wasn't the clear like, this guy's the morally, or the Romans. Same with them.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of good
Right.
emperors. 95% were evil, basically. Or just
Yeah.
either evil or ineffectual or.
the good guys get weeded out pretty quick. They
Yeah.
just never rise high enough to get anywhere near the crown,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the whole point of
Yeah.
Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire and stuff. Is like putting your trust in these like charismatic leaders and stuff. Is
Mhm.
Almost always a bad
Or-
idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I really hope. Here's another thing that could make or break the show, but certain characters like Daemon Targaryen, Aemon Targaryen, who's the brother of. I'm trying to remember if he's a cousin or if he's a younger brother of the other guy, the son who's vying for the throne. But he's the guy with the one eye, sapphire in its place,
Right,
or whatever.
Yeah.
There are certain characters where if they're done well, I'll almost like the show no matter what.
Mhm.
Like if Daemon is
Yeah.
great, Aemon is great. Action is awesome. It'll be like, okay, I'll be a lot more forgiving of certain things.
Mhm.
And if they're done poorly, then things are gonna be hurt, even if the overall story is okay. What would be one big thing that would kind of make you forgive a lot or make or break the show?
Mhm. Right. Yeah. I see what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I'm trying to think of something that would just absolutely break the show to me.
Yeah.
3 years ago, when this was first announced and GOT had just ended, it would have been like, there's very few things the show can do right to get me interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now it's been 3 years, and
Yeah.
now I'm like, maybe we'll check it out.
Yep.
Hopefully I enjoy it. Hopefully it's good and stuff.
Right.
So, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, one thing, like, if the politics and the character dynamics suck,
Yeah.
anything else isn't going to make up for that, because that's the core of this show.
Yep.
yeah,
It's what the show is going to live on for its entirety.
Right. That's
they tread too much into fan service and like trying to connect it to Game of Thrones in unnecessary ways.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Any prequel,
Yeah.
typical prequel stuff.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which,
Yeah.
yeah.
but if it truly does feel like a show that can just be watched on its own,
Mm-hmm.
then that would be huge.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could take someone who's never seen Game of Thrones and show them this and it makes sense, that would be huge. I'm thinking, I'm trying to think of what really could make or break it besides just terrible politics or
Right.
characters acting not like their character.
Because there's nothing like morally the characters could do that would get me not to watch it. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watch Game of Thrones. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be anything like that.
Right.
I think one thing that would sell me on it pretty quick is if they had like um, really like believable battles,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like within the context of a fantasy show, like because obviously Game of Thrones got so far away from that
Mm-hmm.
with their battle tactics being terrible and stuff. But if they kind of like are like really clever with how they use the elements that they have
Yep. And if
to
like
show like these are
yeah, like if they
smart
had
people,
right,
Mm-hmm.
if you had like dragon fighting as its own art of like
Right.
things that make sense, like on a dragon you usually almost like fighter pilots or something, you know, the main thing is
Right.
like get altitude on them or you know fly low in this situation, things like that.
Yeah.
That would be actually really cool.
That would be huge. Yeah.
Or like
Um,
like the limiting elements of riding a dragon. Like a human can't survive at a certain altitude. They're
mhm.
just so.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be able to find ways around that. Like they're obviously, you know, just the fact that the dragon probably gives off a ton of heat
Yeah.
allows you to be warm
Yeah,
up
you're
high
not frozen.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm,
But just like make it so it's like, okay, I understand how this works, what the limitations are,
Mhm.
and why they are that way. You know,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, because
that
it'll
kind
be
of thing.
interesting. Because as far as battles go, like there are plenty of battles that happen in it. There's actually some sweet battles that happen where when there's not dragons there, when it's just armies. But it will be interesting if they can pull off the regular battles in a really interesting way too, that makes them as interesting or more interesting than even the dragon fights. Um,
Something that would sell me on it early on, and this isn't something I've heard or not, is if the dialogue goes back to, which I know some people don't like, but I do. So if the dialogue goes back to pseudo medieval speak, like the first maybe 3 seasons were
yep.
of the original show, and then from then on had pretty much modern dialogue.
Yep.
I would much
Oh, I love
prefer
that. Yeah.
if it goes back to that style, like George R. R. Martin's dialogue.
Yeah. Dude, even just
Or it's almost
like,
poetic. It's so good sometimes.
yeah. It's like reading, or I mean watching even the Lord of the Rings movies. They had those points where like certain the way they spoke was like it was poetic, and I'm totally fine with it as long as it doesn't, you know, feel like it's a theater play of Shakespeare
Right.
or something, you know, like
Yeah.
there's ways to do that really well.
Yeah,
Yeah, because George R. R. Martin's writing was like that. Even, yeah, like I like that where it's modern enough to where it doesn't sound weird, but it still retains that older feel to it and more powerful,
yeah. I mean,
poetic speaking.
they have so much to draw from too. They have
Mhm.
the Song of Ice and Fire books. They have Dunk and Egg. Like if you want to hear like Targaryens speak
hmm
during their reign, you
Yeah.
look at Dunk and Egg. You know, like there's things that they can draw from, even if they don't have hardly any dialogue from the Fire and Blood
Mhm.
book. They can just get the style of George R. R. Martin's dialogue, which is just so beloved. I mean, it's like easily one of the best parts of his writing is,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
is his dialogue. So why would you not want to emulate that? You
Mhm.
know? And so I feel like if these people are actually clued into what Martin wants from adaptations of his work, then they'll be solid in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
And
I
they don't
good-
have to worry about like departing from the book because it's
Right.
all finished. You
Yeah.
know, like it's
Mm,
What were you gonna say, Drew?
oh, I'm just gonna share
Hmm.
a link of what its dialogue shouldn't sound like.
Okay. Just put it in the general chat or something.
Yeah. It's just a picture, but
Okay.
there's actually, for this character from this game, there's actually a reason, and like it actually works that his character sounds like this. But mine intent, as well thou knowest, was but to impress upon thee the gravity of thy circumstance, lest thou doubt a deiform entity shall shortly be summoned. Save if thou and no other grantest my compeers thine aid.
Can you imagine if they
Yeah.
did just speak
Also,
like that?
it's a lot of work to write dialogue like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, there's a good balance that I think
Mm-hmm.
can be struck. I mean, there's a certain way of like structuring people's speech,
Mm.
Yeah.
or it just feels like a little bit thought out before they say it. You know,
Right.
like it's not just like stream of consciousness. You know, it's like
Mhm.
this is TV. We want good dialogue. We want a little bit unrealistically good dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not watching reality TV.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Watching something constructed, so it can be a little constructed.
Right.
Yeah. No one really complains about movies and TV shows dialogue, or the general setup of it, even though it's like so different from normal
Right.
conversations. Most people,
Yeah.
half the time half the time we don't even finish our sentences. We just
Right.
say part of one and then we move on to another. Like,
Yeah.
or people talk over each other all the time. That's just standard. Like,
Mhm.
it's just regular. It would make almost no sense in a movie form, or it would be super hard to follow.
Everyone has like for the most part like kind of the perfect thing to say
Yeah.
in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every sentence is just conveying meaning constantly. You
Right.
know,
Mhm.
revealing things and whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it
Most-
comes. Let's see. It comes out in 2 weeks, I think.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah, August
I didn't know it was that soon.
21st.
Okay.
So pretty soon we'll have to do some review.
Yeah.
Slash,
Definitely.
So
Yeah,
is that week by week?
I think so.
I assume.
Yeah, first episode date is 21st. Because
Interesting.
they
Yeah,
always
so
did
that-
the other ones like that too, week by week, right? So
Yeah.
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 Maybe one skip in there, but
yeah.
1 week that doesn't have one
Hmm.
usually.
Right.
But
Do we know how many episodes?
I don't know actually.
I don't know.
I'm hoping 10
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's another 8-episode season, I can't stand when.
or 6.
Yeah,
If it's
Oh.
6 episodes like Marvel, I'm gonna be so mad. Actually.
dude. Okay, it says 10.
Okay.
That's good. I love 12, but 10 is
Yeah.
10 is worth it. Like the fact that people will do 6 to 8 episodes in the first season, it's like just I'm not if I knew
Yeah.
that start going into it, I probably wouldn't even watch it. It's like,
There's a lot of
What
shows
was-
I haven't watched because of that.
yeah,
What was The Witchers? Wasn't that pretty short?
Witcher's
was
is
8.
pretty short. Yeah.
It was 8.
Yeah. I think that was the first time I'd seen a show.
Short.
I've only 8 episodes. And it's like, what?
Yeah, they only do 8,
That makes
which
no sense.
I guess with The Witcher it's less part of it is kind of it's not like an anthology, but it's like
Right. The first season and first 2 seasons are kind of episode by episode.
yeah. But
Oh.
still, like, give me at least 10, you know.
Well, that
Yeah.
even most of the shows that were like that, Monster of the Week type shows had like 22 episodes.
Yeah. Used to be
Right.
just so many, which
Yeah.
is just, that is incredible.
And yeah, it's
I don't know how they did that.
let's look at a show that was from that era that was actually insanely good.
Yeah,
How
and I
many
guess
total episodes it was.
most of
Buffy
those
the
shows also sucked because they had to do so much, had to fit so
Yeah.
much.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer had 144 episodes,
Jeez.
and it was basically 90% of them were good.
Yeah,
That's like an extreme.
yeah.
Most of them had half the episodes were garbage. Most
Just
of the shows.
unnecessary. Yeah.
Yeah. But they'll
Yeah.
give you opportunities to have take 2 characters, put them together, and have them just develop as characters,
Right.
which is
yeah.
what a lot of these shorter shows, you don't have that luxury.
Yeah. Yep.
Are those called bottle episodes?
Yeah, they're kind of bottle. I was thinking more just like it could be about anything, but it's just like two characters, and it's not related to the overarching plot. Bottle
Yeah.
episode is
Yeah.
like you're stuck in a location with like
Oh,
most of the cast, but they never leave that location.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
the Fly and Breaking Bad, or
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
they were usually they were called bottle episodes because back in these days, when they were 22 episodes, they were budget savers.
Yeah.
If you had a limited budget, you could use a couple episodes, and the cast would already be paid, and you could just throw them in a location. And a lot of times
Yeah.
it would cause these great episodes to come out of it
Mm-hmm.
because they were relied solely on their writing. That was it. That was all they
Yeah.
had.
And those
They
are
had-
also the
writing had to be
episodes.
good.
Those are the episodes where you can tell, like, all right, this show that I'm watching is just, I'm purely watching it just for, I'm not watching it for the writing, because there's certain episodes of, like, I think it was Stargate Universe, where I loved the premise and I loved anything that had to do with the ancient alien ship, and then you
Right.
would have these situations where, like, they're running low on oxygen, so they all have to be crammed into like this one
Yeah.
container. And then they explore their character, and it's just
I
so
mean, it's just-
boring. It's just,
Trash.
Yeah.
Yep.
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 Like, there's so many of those on, especially on sci-fi movies, because I don't know what it is about. There's so many bad sci-fi shows where, like, they go for like 2 seasons. It's a great premise to start things off, and then everything just falls apart.
The characters just suck.
Yeah, and they're just
Yeah.
boring, very average TV actors. Like, yeah,
Mhm. And because you don't have a budget, you can't just rely on your concepts.
yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of a lot of the books these shows are based off of sci-fi shows are not character-driven books.
yeah,
They're very conceptual, distant books that,
Mhm.
like, like that one show, Foundation, which I never watched. But the book is like, it's like 1,000 years of
Yeah.
time that it like follows.
dang,
Yeah.
And it's mostly not told through characters' point of views and stuff like that. So it's like
yeah,
it's a lot harder to adapt that into a show
yeah,
when you have to have character development and all these things. I mean, I don't
Right.
know. I don't know if any TV show can really get away with doing none of that.
yeah,
Like NCIS, I suppose. But
Yeah.
even within the episode, there's character development.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't stick.
A show like
Mhm.
NCIS doing a bottle episode would be just
Right.
the most pointless thing ever.
Yeah. 'cause it
Yeah.
would just be like, yeah, exactly. or like, you have shows like The Office where it was like 80% of the time it was kind of a bottle episode because
Yeah.
they were just
Right.
mostly within the office, and
Yeah.
they were always relying on just the writing until the later
Yeah.
seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just characters bouncing off each other.
So
Just-
that has to be good, like,
Yeah.
right.
or Mad Men
Yeah.
or something like that, where it's 90% of it takes place in their office, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Arrested Development or something. It's
Mhm.
just that is
Yeah.
the entire appeal of the show.
Yeah.
Just
yeah,
I guess
Right.
with comedies especially, it's like because you have to,
Yeah.
all of your characters have to be funny, and they all have to be funny, like every
right.
10 seconds or 5 seconds, like
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
You really have to lean heavily on their interactions.
One thing I would like to, it's kind of going back to at least Game of Thrones sphere. One thing that, and kind of going also tying in the episode by episode thing, is something I would love to see someday from either a fantasy show, a fantasy series, Game of Thrones specifically, or something like that. Is just like, it's like you follow like one ship of characters, and there's like 16 characters on that ship,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just them going to different locations and all that kind of stuff, but you have these overarching,
Yeah.
and you have a high budget and all these things that, and just like an exploration show.
Dude, you
Yeah.
can imagine that. Like, yeah, you could have some sweet.
'Cause you could have things where like a season they are stuck somewhere,
Yeah.
so like that whole season is in a shy or something, things
Yep.
like that.
Dude,
that
you
type
just
of
follow. Yeah, you follow Garyon Lannister
thing.
on
Mhm.
his,
And you have all
way
this
across.
you have all this Essos world building that will
Mhm.
never fit in a regular Game of Thrones show like House of Dragon or something. But
Yep.
George R. R. Martin's done a ton of world building over there.
Yeah.
He didn't need to,
Yeah.
and it's just probably partially just a distraction for him.
Yep.
But will never really get explored. But it's like a lot of the weirder elements
Yeah.
of the Game of Thrones world are in there, or the southern continent.
Yeah. Just the
Right.
further you go from Westeros, things get stranger and stranger.
Mhm.
Yeah. There really is like a ton you could do within the whole Game of Thrones world. Like, there's so much. Some of it might be completely unrecognizable to the other parts of it, but I think it still
Right.
could be
Yeah.
interesting. I just can't wait until they basically have an MCU version of Game of Thrones.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
Pull
if
like,
they-
they pull like the Star Wars deal where there's like 5 shows that
Yeah.
are supposed to connect and
Yep.
yeah.
You have one single hero from each show, and they're always banding together, going around doing things.
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
People are like demanding like a people are demanding like a Benjen spin-off or something. Like
Yeah. As well as yeah.
like
Well, yeah.
oh man. Yeah, Star Wars has lost all of my interest
Yeah.
completely.
yep.
Amazing how it can have more content than ever,
Mm-hmm.
and I can be so uninterested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing that could bring me back. Like, and it's annoying because Star Wars has like actually one of the best settings of like all sci-fi, because it's all
Oh,
built
yeah.
out. They've got millions of planets, tons of different alien races. They're all kind of together, but not. You have just infinite possibilities, and then it's just they just can't hit
Yeah.
the nail on the head on some of these. Yeah.
Well, I mean, oh yeah. What about what I was just saying with Game of Thrones world, but in the Star Wars world?
Yeah.
Like,
I would love to see. I would
you
honestly.
follow just like some random Jedi and his crew,
Yeah.
and they get lost in the outer planets or something like that.
Yep.
And then it's just
Dude, yeah. Especially like
Yeah.
500 years before,
Mhm.
or 500 years after.
they find the original like Sith and
Yep.
the actual race of Sith and stuff like that. And
There's so much that you could do there, but
Mhm.
instead we just continue
What
to
about-
come back to the same things. Yeah.
What about like a fugitive ship in the Warhammer universe?
That would be.
Where
that
it's
would
just
be, yeah.
pure chaos.
Yep.
Everywhere they go, they're just in constant, just brutal
Mhm.
war. They're
Yeah.
just trying to make it through the galaxy.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh,
That's
I
one
would
thing
love
we
that.
should. That's one thing we should talk about sometime. Is
Dude. Yes.
how to make a good Warhammer show or
Oh,
Warhammer 40K
man.
show or
Because
something.
the possibilities are basically actually endless with Warhammer.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, I mean it's a world that exists to create more plastic figures
Yeah.
that people can buy.
Yeah, yeah.
So
they don't
it's-
want to stop
just
expanding.
limitless and-
Yeah. 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 Oh man, that would be a great one. Yeah, I think over the next, I guess if we're, because we'll probably, I don't know what you guys want to do schedule wise, but if one of these is coming out every week or
Right.
so from the 21st, I would be down with doing,
Mhm.
whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, if we want to keep it shorter because we might be doing another podcast or something
Right.
later that week, whatever. But that'll give us a good,
It's too bad we're
10,
not.
10 weeks worth of content. So, yeah.
I guess it would be. I was gonna say too bad we're not like established with like a Patreon and stuff.
Yeah.
Watch them with people.
Yeah,
but
that would be
then I realized
awesome.
you'd want to have
Yeah.
a lot of commentary though, and I don't know how
Yeah,
fun that would be.
right.
We could watch House of Dragon together though, just through Discord or whatever.
I would
Right.
I would be totally down with
We
that.
Yeah,
we should watch House of the Dragon and Rings of Power all together.
Yep.
yeah, definitely.
I would be
I,
down
I,
with that.
I watched all of Game of Thrones with people, so
Yeah.
Yep, I'm 100% down with that. Yeah. And there's even technically ways you can make videos out of that too. Like
right.
there'd be like React videos, but with
Right,
as,
that's true.
you know,
Yeah, people do. Yeah, people do React stuff.
Yeah, there's ways that you have to get around, like making sure you're not getting copyright strikes or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you could just have clips. Like it's not the full episode.
Right.
You're just going from.
And even
And
if the
any
screen
major-
is like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a streamer that I just have watched a couple movies with,
Mm-hmm.
but he basically like on Saturday nights does. We'll watch a movie with a fellow streamer, and they just do it on Twitch, and then they just say, all right, click play.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You just have them in another screen or whatever, and then you watch the
Yep.
movie.
Right.
That works pretty well.
Yeah.
It's not as good as some of the ones I've watched where they watch garbage movies
Yeah.
and then like on Patreon watch garbage movies and then have like full on commentary during.
Yep.
That's some of the most. They have one where they just do what me, Caleb, and Dustin used to do, where you just shut your eyes and scroll through Netflix and click play.
Yep.
Should also be fun to do.
We should probably do that. Yeah.
Because that's how you get to just the drags.
Dude, we
You can't
could
even
also
find
do that.
drag movies by looking.
Yeah.
That's the way to just find a movie that's just like, oh wow.
Yeah. There we
on
could
Netflix.
also
Yeah.
do that. I don't know how we could find them, but we could do that with games too.
Oh yeah. That would
Like,
be fun. Yeah.
especially like, well, I mean, you could do that with like Flash games, honestly. Like,
Right.
you could have just
Yeah.
the dumbest, addicting games going on and just trying out different things. But
You know, it's
Yeah.
another idea we could do is just try to create like we did on Slack that one time, the worst possible like God of War show.
Oh yeah.
Like, coming up with the cast, coming up with maybe a loose plot,
yep,
Yeah. Yeah. That would be awesome.
yeah,
but like believably, like what?
Yeah. Believably bad. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
We could also obviously read like Harry Potter fan fiction.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm down to continue my Immortal or whatever the heck I was reading
Yeah.
at one time.
Oh man. Yeah.
Joy. It's purely a joy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have much else to say on House of Dragon.
Not
until
really.
We watch
yeah.
it.
Yeah. It'll
Yeah,
just
I'm
be a
definitely
wait and
excited.
see. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm trying to not get excited about it because otherwise I don't want to be disappointed, but who knows?
I'm like actually
but
interested.
then you can just
yeah.
trash it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
yeah,
is just
true.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have, yeah,
I'll watch
like
the
you said,
whole
I
show,
am interested.
probably.
Yeah,
Even if I hate watch it, I'll probably watch the whole thing.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The worst thing you could do would just be kind of mediocre.
Yeah, true.
That would
Actually,
be the
it's just like it's like one of those like shows like The Tudors or
Mhm.
something like that. Like there's just
That
it's
you
just
just
kinda
kind of forget to watch after a while. Yeah.
it's just kind of bland. Yeah, exactly. You just forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like that actually would be like the worst fate for it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Then it would be like, well, yeah, no one
Okay.
cares about Game of Thrones
Do
anymore.
you think that this has the potential to be better than Game of Thrones?
Yeah. Snow,
Probably.
I'm much less convinced on, but this
Yeah.
I think has the potential to be.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just don't know if it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Very
it's not,
low,
gonna, it's not gonna
probably
match my personal feelings
Yeah.
I had when I watched
Yeah.
the first 4 seasons.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That's nearly impossible
It's
to
not-
match. Yeah.
I mean, even aside from Game of Thrones itself, there's been so many other epic fantasy shows that
Oh,
have
yeah.
come out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not as novel,
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Yeah.
and also just doesn't have the beloved books and
Yeah.
whatever. But
And
Yeah,
it doesn't
there's-
have Sean Bean, which when I first started watching Game of Thrones as a youngster, just seeing Sean Bean in any format was like, all
Yeah.
right, this is awesome.
And
Yeah.
and there's just the fact that the characters from the original books are, they're George R. R. Martin's probably best characters he's ever come up with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, they were designed to be a dynamic, interesting cast of characters,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
obviously is possible, but it's just hard to beat. You've got a kid in a wheelchair. You've got a dwarf who's smarter than like everybody else. You
Yeah.
have you have Arya, and Sansa was
Jaime.
more generic, but yeah,
Yeah.
you have Jaime, and like, you know, Daenerys was super interesting back then,
Yeah.
and like, yeah,
And
Yeah.
obviously, they're his best because they're also his most like fleshed out ones. Whereas these ones
Yeah.
they're not blank slates, but they're probably have like 2 or 3 defining features that
right,
George R. R. Martin came up with, but he's never
Yeah.
written a line of dialogue for, or
yeah. He's
so-
never had to like explore them.
right. So now we're
Multiple
getting
books.
someone else's take on those characters, obviously with input from George, but
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's the same,
yeah.
like with Rings of Power. It's the same thing. You're just taking
Yeah.
from a history book and trying to flesh out characters that we really don't know that much about.
yeah. The characters
Except-
that they have to have arcs and things like that. But
Yeah. Oh
that
man.
Yeah.
part-
And these
Right.
guys have the House of the Dragon has the advantage of having George R. R. Martin still
Yeah.
around. To
Yeah.
right.
give
Oh,
input.
can you imagine if they were making the Children of Hurin?
Yeah.
Oh, and they just
That-
literally stuck to the book. Oh,
Mhm.
there's so much awesome stuff.
That would be like the best possible story,
Mm.
pretty much,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because it wouldn't be like there's a certain level of epic that you just can't portray
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
in some of those first age battles and stuff. But
Yeah.
Children of Hurin is pretty contained,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
except for the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, which would just be
Awesome.
humongous and
Yeah.
would have everything, the Balrogs and
Yeah, that's when you just throw all
Yeah.
your budget into, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You have
Yeah.
Glaurung. You have the awesome thing about the Children of Hurin is also you have Morgoth in like a physical form, like
Mhm.
taunting Hurin when he has him captured, and then he later releases him. Like Morgoth has like some real depth, which is interesting.
Did you guys watch that video I posted about Morgoth
No, not yet. I should actually.
in Snapchat?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't watch it. I know what you're talking about.
It's just basically the history of Morgoth's character, just going his story throughout the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating because you actually get a pretty well-rounded understanding of what he's
Right.
like, and it's I think the guy basically said the entire video is just him reading what Tolkien wrote about Morgoth. It's not
Mhm.
even in his own words. He's just
Mhm.
reading what Tolkien wrote, and it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I should check that
maybe-
out after this. Yeah.
Made
Yeah.
me really appreciate Morgoth's character. Not that he's like Jaime Lannister, some kind of gray. He's
Yeah.
not gray,
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
but
Yeah.
But he's an evil on a primal level that
Mhm.
still has a reason for being evil, which is good.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
And he actually the origins of Morgoth's evil make a lot more sense to me now from watching that
Yeah.
video. The actual on a base level, why does he act this way?
Yeah.
Okay, now I kind of get it a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really good video. And Morgoth's, I wish we could have him portrayed at some point, but I don't know if I would trust him to do it right. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
It's a
tough.
hard one. It's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's like doing Lucifer, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Very few people are capable of it
Right.
or have pulled it off.
where
Yeah.
they can be that evil, but
Mhm.
not just over the top,
Right.
and still a character that,
Insidious evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
That actually, just
Yeah.
randomly thinking of Lucifer. Dan, you knew that Sandman started, right?
Yes, has
Netflix-
it been
Netflix show.
released? Like the first
Yeah,
episode?
Netflix show came out. The whole show. I think the whole
The-
show's out.
Really?
The whole first
Okay.
season
I
Has,
gotta
like,
watch that then.
has like high ratings across the board.
Yeah, because
Beloved.
I'm
Look
trying
at
to
the
remember
cast of
who I.
that show. That show is packed. I was just looking at it last night because I hadn't
can't
heard
remember.
anything about it.
I can't remember who I heard it from, but there was someone who was just singing the praises of it. So I guess. Oh yeah, I know the chick. Well, Jenna
got
Coleman,
it's got
Gwendolyn
Taron,
Christie.
it's got Taron Egerton.
Yep.
Who's very, very good. Boyd Holbrook's very good.
Holbrook's, yep.
David Thewlis is good. Charles Dance is good. Mark Hamill is
my
good.
Oh my
Kat
goodness.
Dennings is good. James McAvoy is good.
Jeez.
Stephen Fry is good.
Yep.
And Christie.
Patton Oswalt is good.
Yep. Okay, well that's what I'm gonna do right after this then. Just chain the entire
Andy
show.
Serkis?
Andy
Yeah, I don't know
Serkis.
who he
Really?
is, but
Yeah.
Michael Sheen? Stephen Fry? Like, wow,
Yeah.
that's insane.
yeah, it's like the voice reading that they did. It was just like, how did you get all these people?
Yeah.
A lot of people would love to work with Neil Gaiman, I think. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's
A lot
true.
of British people would love to.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'll have to definitely watch that. And the visuals in it, just from the tiny bit that I did see, looked really like dreamscapey and like
Right,
you know,
which was the
yeah.
part that was like, how the heck are you going to do that?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these are some, man. Alright, yeah, I'm definitely watching that.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, like you said, I don't really have that much more to say on House of the Dragon until it comes out.
Yeah.
But fingers crossed. We'll see.
And,
At the very least, we'll get dragon battles. So,
right.
and a lot of them.
At the very least, we have more Game of
Right.
Thrones to talk about.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm happy to do. So,
Right.
whether it's terrible or good,
Yep. We'll have plenty of talking points to
yeah,
just
yeah.
drone on and on about every time we see each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all that really matters.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I'll call the episode there. But yeah.
Okay.
Sweet.